from Screen Junkies Studios in the heart of Los Angeles, this is Screen Junkies Movie Fights. Now your host, Andy Signore. Today's episode is brought to you by America's Best Unlimited Network. Don't miss a show with unlimited data from T-Mobile.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Movie Fights Live. I'm so excited to be here with some amazing fighters. This is going to be a really fun show and some fun topics. Today, we'll be arguing what's the worst movie of the summer of 2017. Everyone online is already saying it's the Emoji Movie. We'll see if anyone here agrees. What two actors should star in a face-off reboot? Ooh, that's fun. I want to know what you guys are going to... Who would you pick to face off in this day and age and out of our honest trailer, which thank you guys for watching. And since it is ruining the clown industry forever and that apparently not clowns in the world are not happy because no one's hiring birthday clowns now, what other occupation should get its own horror movie? Lots of fun stuff, so stay tuned. You can follow the conversation live on Twitter at #MovieFightsLive. Let's see who our fighters are today. First... right next to me, he's a fighter. He's been on the show a lot. So happy to have, I think his name is Dan Merle.
Hi.
Oh, hey, welcome to the show, Dan.
Oh, it's so
I'm
happy.
sorry, I'm weird because you've never been
I never sit here, and it's a very, I'm on the comeback trail.
Yeah, Dan, come on. Me, so. Dan, the Madman Merle is back here, starting on the ground up, and you're excited to try and get that belt back, I imagine.
Pick myself up off the mat. Let's go.
Do you feel like you're thrown off a bit being in that chair? No. All right, interesting.
It's gonna be weird.
Sorry, you don't want to admit that to the fighters.
Yeah,
he already is not in his chair. Like he has a.
Oh no.
Yeah. All right. Well, next up, I'm so happy to have our host of the wrestling podcast Tights and Fights. It's Miss Danielle Radford. Welcome back, Danielle.
Hi. Hello.
So happy to have you. How you been?
I've been really, really good. I have an apartment. I have AC. I have this new wig. Everything's great.
Oh, you're killing it. Loving it. And you're going to kill it today. And you've got two strong fighters here. I hope you're not nervous.
I'm just going to tell jokes.
Good. Hey, you can win that way. Mike Carlson has made quite a while.
Quite a movie fights career out of that, yes.
Finally, I'm so happy to have the writer for comics and for screen, Mr. Mark Andreyko. Welcome back, Mark.
Good to be here. It's been a while.
It has. How are you doing?
Good. I saw you guys at Comic-Con, but I don't remember the last time I was up to here doing the movie fights.
I don't know if I've ever fought Mark in a full movie fight
Dan?
before. Yeah, I think this might be the first time.
Maybe we did the very first time.
Maybe. I don't remember.
Oh, all right. Let's pretend like you didn't. Yeah. First time.
First time.
This is the reboot.
Exactly. Well, helping since Dan is up here fighting, we need a fact checker of the stars, Mr. Lon Harris. He's the man who gets all these questions organized, so it makes sense that you're here helping to fact check this. This is going to be a good show, huh, Lon?
It's going to be a great show. In YouTube, they are already saying the Emoji Movie's the worst movie, guys. Why are we even having this fight?
They're wrong.
Good
because
question.
It's not, which we'll talk about.
That's fine.
They want to know why we're having this fight at all.
Well, we will find out soon. First up, I want to thank two guests on our fan cam, Will Robinson Smith and Isaac. Thanks for coming, guys.
Hey,
Danger, Will Robinson. I bet you haven't heard that in 5 minutes.
Yeah, for real.
No,
there's
never heard that
Max.
before. That's a new one, so thanks.
Oh, boy.
Where are you guys from?
So my brother Isaac lives here in the LA area, and I'm visiting him from Alabama, where I'm actually a television reporter out there.
Oh, wow.
Hey.
Nice.
What's your beat?
So I'm a morning reporter, and I work for the ABC station in Huntsville, Alabama, so just below the Tennessee-Alabama borderline.
Awesome.
Oh,
That's
man.
very cool.
So now we have to try not to get him fired. That's like a real job.
Now, Will, I'm going to pull your task. Will you report between segments for us now? Report on the round after each one.
I can do some social media reporting, yeah.
Yeah, well, I want to just cut to Will on the cam. How was that round? And give me your reporting of the round and your.
Yeah, I'll give you my best reporter face.
Great.
Oh, yeah.
Any chance?
You stood up straight. Yeah. Putting you to work.
Any chance we'll get a feature? Any chance we'll get a feature on your local news station about your experience here?
You never know.
We should have
talk to
planned
my,
ahead. Yeah, next time. All right. Well, I'm happy to have you both. Thank you for coming. This is gonna be a lot of fun. You guys know how to play this game. I'm listening to your facts, creativity, your arguments is what's really important here. So stay on point. Let's do it.
Hear the music.
What a lovely day! Are you not entertained?
Let them fight.
Awesome. Love that montage still. Nice job, Harry. That was great. Let's do it. Round one. Guys, this came in from R. Drago66. What is the worst movie of the summer of 2017? Man, there were a lot of them to pick. Yeah. And it's not just the Emoji Movie. Let's see if someone did, though, pick that. Dan, what are you picking?
Yeah, luckily I didn't think there were as many as there were last year, but if it was worst movie premise of 2017, then yes, we would maybe be talking about the Emoji Movie. That was not the worst movie of the summer. There were a few that I juggled with, but the one that I settled on was Baywatch. It was an early May release, and just as far as just walking out of a movie deflated and just disappointed in what I'd seen, nothing really topped Baywatch. You have The Rock, who is, I mean, one of the last few honest to God movie stars left, and maybe the last one that's going to be launched for a while. You have Zac Efron, who's found this crazy weird second career in comedy and has been in so many good comedies lately. You have a cheesy premise, something that's ripe for the picking. I mean, what is easier to find comedic situations in than Baywatch? And this movie just whiffed it on every single level. I mean, it is too painful hours. I chuckled maybe once or twice, and I just came out of it just so discouraged. Just like, why? You had everything going for you. It would almost be hard not to screw up this premise with this cast, and yet they somehow managed to do it. And for me, out of all of those summer movie seasons, the most deflating was Baywatch.
All right, let's hear from Danielle, who is up next. What movie are you picking out of the worst films of summer 2017?
I went with Transformers: The Last Night. Transformers: The Last Night is 2.5 hours of product placement and explosions, which is at least 1 hour way too long. You can be a bad movie. You don't get to be a bad movie for 3 hours. That's not fair. It's a Transformers movie with barely any Optimus Prime, which is what is even the point. And one of the biggest things is that, like, these Transformer movies are kind of paint by numbers. And unfortunately, what that means is that, like, sometimes it kind of feels like they just don't care. They're going to make their money. They know that they're going to make their money. And it's okay. Look, I think we've all had plenty of times when we've called it and just kind of faked it till we made it at work or in other places or sometimes in movie fights. And so that's fine. You don't get to do that for 2.5 hours. And for me, that's what the length of the amount of time, the complete incoherence of the plot, how like just too many of the explosions. It's way too loud, and it's, as a Transformers movies, of course, there's like these weird jokes that don't land and seem kind of like, oh, you probably could have made a better choice. And so because of that, I went with Transformers: The Last Night.
All right, Mark, what are you picking?
Mine was hopefully the third in a trilogy of bad reboots of this myth, King Arthur. Then The Legend of the Sword, I think, is its full title. What a miserable, miserable, miserable experience from word go. If you thought Charlie Hunnam stunk up Pacific Rim, I don't think English is his first language. I think he speaks Klingon, and he's just doing it phonetically like Bela Lugosi and Dracula. This is the third time we've had a King Arthur movie since First Night with Richard Gere and Sean Connery. Remember that? Where they were King Arthur in name only. Then we had Anton Fuqua's mess of a King Arthur movie where Guinevere was like some Tarzan-y savage leading a cult in the disaster. And now we have this King Arthur movie that was the first of an ambitious 7 movies. When you ever read a TV pilot, they tell you, don't save stuff for the first episode because you don't know if you're going to get beyond the pilot. This was saving all the good stuff for later. No Merlin, the table shows up at the end of it. Charlie Hunnam is doing Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Lances. It's tonally a mess. It's every bad instinct Guy Ritchie has ever had in one, talk about epically long movie. I think it might be as long as Transformers. If I had cancer and had 6 months to live, I would watch this every day because it would feel like I lived to be 100. It was both humorless and smug at the same time. Just utterly. And when you have the great source material of King Arthur, has no one watched the John Borman version? There's a lot of stuff to do there. There's a lot of fresh takes you can do on this. This movie is easily, by far, maybe the worst movie of the year so far.
All right, guys, you got great opening arguments. Now I've heard, listen, let me just say this. I believe all your movies are horrible. Why is yours the worst? Fight it out.
I disagree, first of all. There aren't a lot of fresh takes left on King Arthur. It's been done so many times. It's been done on television. It's done in countless numbers of movies, miniseries. I saw King Arthur and I came out of it going like, wow, it definitely wasn't good. But I was like, it's interesting. It's really weird. Like it is like a Guy Ritchie kaleidoscope of just like storytelling. It's like I came out of it more intrigued than hating it because it's Guy Ritchie's style married to like epic fantasy storytelling, which don't seem like they work.
Married to B-roll footage from the Lord of the Rings movies that he just stole, apparently.
It's a failure, but at least it's an interesting failure.
Oh, I completely disagree. You know, with these two movies, with Baywatch, first of all, what were you expecting? If you're going to McDonald's and it's not good, you weren't going to Spago. It's a Baywatch movie. You know.
No, that's not fair.
That is completely fair.
No, it's not, because you can say the same thing about 21 Jump Street. Oh, 21 Jump Street, what would you expect out of a 21 Jump Street movie? And that movie was great. Like, there have been so many good R-rated comedies lately that, yes, I was expecting a fresh take on this, because these takes have been done before. And with this cast, I was expecting a funny, self-referential movie.
I'll say with The Rock and Zac Efron, I was expecting more, because they are both shown really amazing comedic chops lately. But when the rest of the cast, I don't know who any of these people are, and I wouldn't know of them if they were sitting on that couch right now. You have to populate a cast with good comic actors. Even the movies of Zac Efron's that don't really succeed, Mike and Dave Need Wedding Dates and stuff like that, there's always interesting cast members. The Rock, and I want to see the movie Zac Efron and The Rock thought they were making, because they apparently thought they were making a much better movie than this one. And as far as Transformers goes, definitely what were you expecting? How many times do you have to get food poisoning before you stop going to the same restaurant? This movie, at least your movie had Merlin. My King Arthur movie didn't even have Merlin in it.
But at least your movie takes a risk. It might be something that's King Arthur is established, but for Guy Ritchie to go so far out of his wheelhouse, at least he takes a risk and maybe he cares. And I would much rather celebrate someone who is taking a risk and who is going outside of what they normally do. I want to celebrate that and I want to encourage it, especially when we have a summer that was so filled with unnecessary sequels and also unnecessary reboots. And again, this is a story that we've told before, but at least it was something different and he was trying. Don't know why he tried on Transformers.
I completely I don't even think Guy Ritchie was actually ever on set for this movie. I think he was watching it from his trailer. This movie was rudderless. I thought it was just... there was no one captaining
the ship. If he was watching it from his trailer, then everyone involved in Transformers was watching it from the moon. No one was paying attention to this movie.
Yeah, but Transformers, like, when we got this question, I was all ready to, like, write down with an asterisk, Transformers The Last Night. Like, I so was, and looking back on it, and I mean, all you have to do to trigger me is say Age of Extinction, and I will fly into a blind rage, because I hate that movie as much today as I hated it when I saw it. That's the fourth one. When I saw it 3 years ago, the first Mark Wahlberg one. And looking back on this Transformers movie, I'm like, it had all this. It had product placement. It had explosions. But for me, it's more forgettable than anything. Again, these are all bad movies, so you don't have to. I'm not going to sit here and say that it's a good movie. But it was an inoffensive Transformers movie. It was bad. It had all the landmarks of being bad, but I didn't come out of it carrying anything that I didn't carry into it with. And in a weird way, it almost wasn't as horrible as I thought that it might be, which is the best praise I'll ever give a Transformers movie. Baywatch is just, there's nothing worse than sitting through a comedy that's not working. At the very, very, very least, both of your movies have spectacle. They have something that can at least engage you, if only on a visual level. And Baywatch is just 2 hours in a comedy that's not working feels like 4 hours in an action movie that's not working.
And I guess I do open mics enough that I'm used to watching 2 hours of bad comedy, but it's also, again, you take the Marky Mark of it, which is his character was awful in Age of Extinction. It's awful in this one. At least with The Rock, you have someone who's charming and trying.
You think so, but they not only is he not charming in this movie, they take their biggest asset, The Rock, they take him out of the third act of the movie almost completely. He only shows up at the end, and so it's like, not only did they waste the assets that they have, they took their biggest asset out of the last act of the movie, so you don't even have that one thing.
But at least your movie had glimmering moments of charm of The Rock and glimmering moments of Zac Efron in a Speedo. I had Jude Law playing a gay stereotype from 1925, Eric Bana being just there like, oh, I need a paycheck, I have a house payment, and Charlie Hunnam doing what he's done for the past 10 movies he's been in, just stinking the place up. The spectacle didn't cover up how lifeless and just flat this movie was. It just felt like it was a rehearsal, and a rehearsal where everyone took cough syrup before the rehearsal. It was a spectacle where everyone was just brain dead. It was just lifeless. And there were at least, don't get me wrong, Baywatch is an awful movie too, but at least during Baywatch I laughed 2 or 3 times.
All right, yeah, can I hear the positives in each other's movies? You gave me that, but Danielle, can you list a bit more positives in King Arthur and Baywatch versus Transformers 5?
Okay, well, first of all, the positives with Baywatch are that I don't know necessarily that The Rock has been kind of, since that big GQ spread came out on The Rock, which was amazing, and then all of a sudden became The Rock for President, I don't know that Baywatch necessarily suffered from a lack of Rock. I think we've actually reached the tipping point on The Rock. And I do think that it was positive that they tried to subvert some tropes. They didn't necessarily work, but again, I think that there is something to be said for effort. And I do feel like the jokes weren't necessarily funny, but I think the people who wrote them kind of cared. Same with King Arthur. Not a good movie. Not a good movie, but I do think that Guy Ritchie kind of cared. And also, bravo, Eric Bana, for getting a job. Like, that's good for you in a big movie, being a movie star, paying his mortgage. That's fantastic. Congratulations.
All right, Dan.
Positives from both. I would say that for Transformers, as I said before, it is not the most offensive Transformers movie, which is a positive for me. Anthony Hopkins is doing something in that movie that I found compelling, at least on a what the hell is going on
Getting
level.
a paycheck.
Getting real paid.
But he wasn't like phoning it in like Totoro was in all those movies. Like, he's doing something crazy in that movie.
He has no
that
fucks
I'm like,
to give anymore.
I'm like,
That's
what?
what's
Yeah,
great
exactly.
about him.
He
He's just like,
care.
fuck it, I'm
and
Anthony
he's just
Hopkins.
like doing this crazy thing. So at least like every 10 minutes or so, it would cut to whatever Anthony Hopkins does. I'm like, okay, I don't know what he's doing, but I'm going to watch what he's doing. And it was kind of the same thing with King Arthur. Was I think that's such a weird, the alchemy that it took to somehow get Guy Ritchie and King Arthur on the same page. Like however
They
many
weren't
projects
ever actually on the same page.
but however many projects Warner Brothers merged to get them on the same page, like Arthur would be doing, like they go to these fight scenes and it was like in a Guy Ritchie thing. I'm like, okay, I did not expect this from a King Arthur movie. And then he just has this kind of weird sensibility toward action that, again, it's not a great movie, but at least left me going like, well, this is different. This is at least his take. It's weird. It's nuts. I don't know if I like it, but I'm compelled to watch it. I would watch, I would leave that movie on TNT in the middle of the afternoon. It's a HBO Saturday, it's mediocre. It's meh, but it's not the worst movie.
Great for cleaning house. You can watch that and clean your house.
It's a great house cleaning.
I've already gave you my reasons why that Baywatch is at least eminent is watchable, and my reasons for the Transformers movie being watchable is at least it embraces the King Arthur legend. You have Merlin in it. There's more identifiable King Arthur iconography in the first 10 minutes of Transformers than this movie. If this movie wasn't called King Arthur, I might have a different take on it, but it takes the name of King Arthur. It's like I'm going to Pizza Hut and they're giving me sushi. That's not. Why is this called Pizza Hut? I want a goddamn pizza. This movie, King Arthur, it just fails on every conceivable level. And the spectacle, he's good at it, but it feels cutting edge if it was 1996.
Using that as final thoughts, wrap up. Danielle, final thoughts.
So my final thoughts are: you did mention that Anthony Hopkins was doing something interesting, and the interesting thing he was doing was not reading the script until right before the scene started shooting. He even admitted he had no idea what this entire movie was about. That's why it was interesting, because he was like, I don't know why I'm here. Someone drove me. I went to my trailer. I hung out. I drank some water. I said some stuff, and then I left. Which I guess is interesting. It's another
I'd rather
way
watch
to
that
just
movie
phone
than
it
any of
in.
these three.
Oh my God, yes, just a day
Anthony
in the life.
Hopkins drinks water.
What movie is this?
And he didn't. He had no idea. They even said in multiple interviews, he admitted that he had no idea what this movie was about or why he was there. But he definitely knew to show up and say some words.
All right, Dan, final thoughts?
Yeah, no, Baywatch for me was just, it's not even that the jokes were cheap, it's that they even screw up the cheap jokes. Like, yes, a boner joke is cheap, but sometimes a cheap boner joke can be funny. They even screwed up the boner jokes in this movie. Like, even the gimme jokes that should be easy were just like overplayed, stupid. There's one where he falls through a deck chair. The geography of it doesn't even work. The anatomy of it doesn't even work. Like, they can't even get the cheap jokes right, and it's depressing. Like, a bad comedy can be bad. Like, epic movie is awful to watch, but it's even worse if it's like epic movie or a bad comedy starring actors that you actually like, because you feel bad for them. And I felt bad for every single person that was in that movie because it just didn't work.
All right, Lon Harris over there on the boards.
People are, obviously, Emoji Movie. How did you not?
Watch the Emoji Movie. It's not the worst movie of the summer.
But
It's a movie. It's
Not
fine.
even in the top 10.
a lot of people also calling out The Mummy, Book of Henry. A lot of people surprised Book of Henry didn't come up. Valerian, Snatched,
No.
Dark Tower, and a lot of people asking if we would have counted Netflix's Death Note. I feel like we would have if somebody had asked that.
That's the summer.
It's a
Sure.
movie. It came out in
Technically,
August, so
Every single one of those is better than all three of these movies, and I could defend that easily.
a lot of fans were defending these three movies, even Transformers. We got a lot of comments in defending it, and the fans really were expecting a trick question. We sort of tricked the fans by not making this a trick question.
They're not always trick questions.
I forgot
that was
You
coming.
guys do that
we
stuff
should've.
now.
They thought you guys were going to have to defend Transformers
God.
and Baywatch.
Will, got any report on that for that round?
Well, a lot of those movies I just gave a hard pass to. I
think a lot of us did.
The
Well, fair.
same way.
Yeah.
There were some gems this summer, which you guys talked about last week. Some of the best movies of the summer. But as far as the arguments, I think Mark made a really good point where you go into a King Arthur movie and you really need, the mythos behind it. And if you're not going to get that, then why label it a King Arthur movie? And, for all the Guy Ritchie-isms that were in there.
There was a lot.
Yeah. Probably not enough to save it. But, at the same time, I think Dan made some good points about, you have all the Rock can bring to a movie. And if you're not going to use it, then... that's kind of a waste of a gem, for a screen actor.
A waste of a rock.
A waste of rock.
All right, thank you. Good thoughts. Yeah, this one's legitimately tough because you all made fantastic arguments and you all picked terrible movies. So I was really just sort of listening to how you knocked the other ones down, and I thought Mark really did get some good. You did. I just didn't hear as many teared Mark's movie down as much as the other ones were able to tear each other down, and Mark really laid out. I think something that there were some chuckles, even you admitted, even the awkward weirdness you're talking about Anthony Hopkins, Mark sort of pointed out as kind of interesting. No one was able to make anything sound interesting in King Arthur, so for that point, barely Mark gets the first point. Very first round.
I know
point.
bad.
But Lon, I'm sure they said Transformers on the boards.
They are not backing you on the internet. Twitter had Transformers 51%, Baywatch 30%, King Arthur 19%. YouTube has Transformers 39%, Baywatch 34%, King Arthur 26%.
All I gotta say is try and rewatch all three of those movies and see which one you get the furthest in.
Which one exactly? I bet you I'd have more fun with the other two than King Arthur.
Did you see King Arthur?
Yeah, I didn't like it.
Yeah, it's not good.
It's not.
No,
It's
not great.
not as bad as Baywatch.
It's not good at all.
I would watch King Arthur twice again before I would watch Baywatch once.
They're all bad. I don't really want to watch any of them. I don't want to put that through anybody.
Those are hours you won't get back.
All right, here we go. Question 2. This is a fun one in honor of our Face Off Honest trailer, which was random, but it's 20 years, right, Lon, Dan? Right, 20 years
It
since
is.
Face Off.
20 years, yeah.
Yeah, 1997.
What 2 actors should star in a Face Off reboot? So, if we were to make Face Off today, who would you put in there? Whose faces are we facing off? Danielle, starting with you.
All right, so I chose for this because I think one of the central things about Face Off is that you have to have actors who are really willing to commit and commit hard, and people who, we make fun of Face Off, but Nicolas Cage did some acting in that movie. And John Travolta was also there. And so I think that, you do have to have 2 actors who are willing to push it and who are willing to commit. So I chose Ryan Reynolds and the good Hemsworth, Chris.
Ooh, ouch. Showing some shade there.
Sorry, bud. So
Miley's going to have some talking to do to you after this.
Oh, she's going to have some very polite, I'm country now, I don't fight talking. So I picked these 2 actors because, for one thing, they obviously, physically, you don't have to do a huge leap to believe that they each have each other's bodies underneath. They might be the same person. We don't know. No one's proven that they aren't yet. And because we have seen the range of both of these actors. Yeah, we've seen the range of both of these actors. We know that they can really push it hard and do the comedy, because Face Off genuinely has some very delightful and funny manic moments. And both of these men can hit those really funny manic moments, but they can also do the really serious, boring John Travolta parts, where you're just like a sad dad whose kid is dead. And so that
Spoiler
is why...
alert.
Oh, sorry,
It's like the opening of the movie.
It's literally the credits.
The credits.
It's okay.
Oh, my kid's dead. So because of that, I chose Ryan Reynolds and Chris Hemsworth.
All right, I like it. Mark, who are you picking?
I think that's one of the better crazy performances that Nicolas Cage has given. He's given a lot of them, and some of the Gonzo ones are like the Bad Lieutenant are just unwatchable, but some of those like this are actually really great.
Oh, how dare
and I went with 2 really great actors. I went for kind of the upscale version of this. I went with Tom Hardy and Jake Gyllenhaal.
Wow.
I think that both of them. You talk about
I watch that too.
Talk about the commitment level of these actors. Everything these guys have ever done since their first performance has been committing to a style, and I think that seeing Jake Gyllenhaal do Tom Hardy and seeing Tom Hardy do Jake Gyllenhaal, because their physical ticks are completely different, would be really fascinating. And they're both great actors too. I mean, if you saw Tom Hardy's FX show Taboo and you saw Nightcrawler, they've both become amazing actors. So to get to see, and they've both done comedy, they can both do really great comedy, so they would get the lighter moments. I think it would be like a master class in acting watching these 2 flip, and it would really elevate the genre.
All right, Dan?
Here's the thing. Yours sounds very comedic and yours sounds very dramatic, and I feel like you both lost the core of what Face Off is. Face Off is a beautiful disaster. And I thought, who could you swap faces for that would produce a glorious disaster. And that's why I chose The Rock and Vin Diesel to swap faces in a remake of Face Off. There are so many reasons why. First of all, they apparently hate each other in real life, which would just, I already love it. Secondly, I would love to see The Rock trying to act like Vin Diesel, but even more so, I need to see Vin Diesel trying to act like The Rock. Because I don't know if he can do it, but it doesn't matter either way. Because either way, it's going to be incredible. Face Off is not remembered fondly because it's a great movie. It's remembered fondly because it is absolutely insane. And these guys doing this would be insane. And this is why I have chosen them as the two face-offed actors.
Wow. Guys, all right, fight it out.
Well, the biggest problem with yours, other than the fact that those two actors will never be on the same set ever again, is that Vin is 3 foot tall and The Rock is 6'9".
Exactly.
And you said you'd like to try and see Vin Diesel act. We have yet to try and see Vin Diesel actually try and act.
I would love
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're making my case for me, Mark.
That might be a beautiful disaster, but that's going to be insufferable after about 15 minutes. That's a great sketch or a great Funny or Die. Yours is a little lightweight. I have yet to see Chris Hemsworth give a performance that he can play himself fully, let alone play someone else. And Ryan Reynolds is running the risk of becoming Jim Carrey. There's a good actor in there, but he's got his tics that are in everything now. I'm always watching Ryan Reynolds. In mine, I think you have the best of both worlds. You have actors that can do comedy, you have actors that can do drama, you have actors that could physically mimic each other, and this could be like a good remake of a bad movie. The way that the Coen Brothers' True Grit is a much better movie than the original. This could be sort of a depart from the original material and make a good, solid genre film, like a Die Hard quality genre film.
See, every time you say that, I just think of Point Break and Total Recall, which are movies that tried to take a corny original and do it in a serious, straightforward way, and it was awful, and it sucked all the fun out of it. And that's what Face Off is.
I'm not saying mine would be a drama, but mine would be there would be fun in it.
You literally cast two of the most dramatic actors that there are,
who have given great comedic performances many times.
What's Tom Hardy's great comedic performance?
Well, I would say Bane. He's in on the joke. and he is great in that This Means War movie, although the ending with him and Chris Pine should be them getting together, not Reese Witherspoon. But he's actually got a deft comic touch. And Jake Gyllenhaal, in his whole career, has been doing comedic stuff. I just think this would be an interesting, good movie. And these other two would be interesting for bad reasons.
Yeah, no, I don't want a good face-off. There's no part of me that wants a good version of that movie. Because that does sound really dramatic, but that's a different movie. Like, that's a Criterion Collection version of Face-Off, and I don't know that I want that. And with The Rock and Vin, you know how you talked about the last round just feeling bad for the actors? I would feel too bad for Vin Diesel because it would just be The Rock roasting him the entire movie and Vin Diesel not being able to do anything about it. Like, when you put together like two heavyweights and then like one dude who's just kind of around. I mean, they both are ethnically ambiguous, so that's something that would have for them. But yeah, I just don't want to.
That's their improv troupe's name, actually.
Ethnically ambiguous. Yeah.
So it's like, I mean, there's a reason why one of Vin Diesel's most beloved characters only says 3 words.
And he's not on screen. And he's not on screen for it. He's not on screen.
Dude's not. He's not the best at the Whereas when you get together Chris Hemsworth and Ryan Reynolds, I do agree that Ryan has tics, but those tics are exploitable. That's something that Hemsworth would be able to do, and I think he would really throw himself into that kind of comedy.
I would like to see the slash fiction version of that movie.
I mean, yeah,
but this movie, I think The Rock's head is actually taller than Vin Diesel, so it'll be this little body running around with a face covering it.
Or they have to explain through
No,
some convoluted way that Diesel is now Solid Rock, which again would be amazing. Like, again, we're talking about Face Off as this great dramatic movie.
Do you have to do it like the Hobbits riding in the carriage with Gandalf, where you have to filmed on 2 different levels?
I heard enough.
So many great pairings suggested by the internet. Matt Damon, Ben Affleck. They want to see Tina Fey, Kristen Wiig do this. They want to see Shia LaBeouf, Miles Teller. That's an interesting one. Yeah.
I'm with you, Mark.
I want that email address.
Kate Blanchett, Charlize Theron. We had a lot. And then I really like this one. Dylan McDermott and Dermot Mulroney, just to screw with everybody
confusing.
who had to write about it. Yeah.
All right. Look, I think there were 3 answers here, but there's one I think we do really want to see. And I think
I will say the internet was pretty overwhelming in their choice.
I think it's not Mark's, because I do think you took it a little dramatic. I agree with Danielle. That's not the face-off we want. So it came down to Danielle and Dan, but come on, Danielle, don't you want to see The Rock and Vin Diesel do that?
Yes. You guys know me too well. I mean, as soon as I saw it on there, I was like, oh, I want to see that movie.
Valiant effort. Very close.
Y'all know I love bad movies. And as soon as I saw that choice, I was like, I know I want to see that movie. There's no part
I
of
got to
me
give
that
it
doesn't
to
wanna see that
Dan.
movie.
Dan gets that point.
It's like an eclipse.
You just summed up what we want to
Even if
see
you
in
don't
that
have
movie.
protective glasses, you just
And I applaud you, Danielle, for not giving up there, but I just could feel you were with me. I'm like, yeah, we want to watch
It's like, yeah, no, I do absolutely want to watch Vin Diesel.
Let me double check. The question is should star, not will star. Lon, what did they say online?
Overwhelming agreement with you on YouTube. 67% want to see The Rock and Vin Diesel mix it up. Hardy Gyllenhaal was in second place with 21%. Only 11% want to see Reynolds and Hemsworth.
They're already the same person.
Yeah, I want to see that one. That one's a good choice.
It was a little closer on Twitter, though. 39% want Rock and Diesel. 34% want Hardy and Gyllenhaal.
Yeah, that was close.
27% want Reynolds Hemsworth.
Very close.
Really
All right, great. Well, here we go. Round 3. This one comes in from the 14 Kid. In honor of Schwarzenegger's upcoming film by your friend Taryn, right? Gunther,
Killing Gunther. Out in October. I've seen about 30 minutes
funny,
of it.
It looks funny.
It's really funny. The stuff I've seen, Arnold has not been that relaxed since the movies we're going to talk about here on screen. He was an utter delight. It's really, really a fun movie.
I'm excited. Let's get him on a judge. Let's get him to judge a movie fight. I'm in the comedy round. That'd be amazing. Here we go. But Mark, you're first. The question is, best Schwarzenegger comedy of all time.
I actually watched a couple of these in preparation when we got the question. And
you had a good time, didn't you?
Yeah, I did, actually. There's actually, a lot of these age really well. A couple really don't, and one of them we'll talk about in a minute. But I was surprised to find that the one that I had the most fun watching was Kindergarten Cop, because if you put that in context, when that came out, Schwarzenegger had that was right after Terminator 2, I believe, right?
Or was
before,
it right
right
before?
He was known as this big action guy, and to show him exercise comic muscles, and they say, but W.C. Fields famously said you don't want to work with kids or animals. He works so well with these kids. Mm-hmm. I'm surprised he didn't take that Eddie Murphy route and try and make himself a full-fledged family star, because he's so delightful with these kids, because his broken English and these 5-year-old kids who don't have vast vocabularies, they're kind of on the same playing field vocabulary-wise. Yeah. And it's just a delightful film, and it's a film that when the action happens, they don't try and soften the action. The action has stakes to it. So it's a fun family film, but when the bad guys show up, Arnold's really protecting these little kids and you care about them. And it's got it's one of his classic lines, "It's not a tumor." It's from that, and that scene still makes you laugh when the little kid says it to him. It's just a really charming movie. Do I think it's a great movie that's going to save lives? No, but it's a really fun way to spend 90 minutes with Arnold Schwarzenegger and see him exercise muscles that we should see him exercise more of.
Dan, what are you picking?
My movie was the movie that I suspect Mark was alluding to, but we'll see.
No.
Okay. I actually picked. I picked Last Action Hero. This movie I think is remembered differently because of what happened as it came out. It was his first movie after Terminator 2. It was the Burger King movie. It had the Burger King tie-in. It had the action figures.
Very hyped.
It was very, very hyped, and people were expecting a Schwarzenegger action movie. Like, that's what it was sold as. And it wasn't that. That, combined with the fact that it opened the week after Jurassic Park, and which ate up all of the money, it's kind of remembered as this misfire, bad bomb. And it's really not that. I think that when people went in expecting an action movie and got this kind of meta commentary on action movies, they were didn't quite know what to make of it. And I think Time has actually treated this movie a lot better, because it's, in a weird way, it's kind of a progenitor of things like Honest Trailers, in that it's stepping out of the convention and it's commenting on all of these things. The Sergeant, the fact that everyone has phone. If there's only 6 million people in LA, how come everyone has a phone number that starts with 555? The idea of the stars are invincible and the co-stars aren't. I think that stuff has gotten better, and it looks like, in the age of Deadpool and things, when moviegoers are used to being pulled out of the action and kind of forced to look at what they're watching and commenting on it, I think that it has improved with time, and it's able to do, Shane Black did a pass on this, Zach Penn, who's done a lot of writing on superhero movies helped write the script. It's the kind of movie that can have a running gag about a henchman with a glass eyeball and an Ingmar Bergman's Seventh Seal joke in the same movie. It's really just kind of weird and unique, and I just think it was released at a bad time. It was a different tone than what people were looking for, but I think it's gotten better with time. So that's why I chose Last Action Hero.
Danielle, what are you picking?
I went with one of my favorite movies of all time. I'm choosing True Lies. I love True Lies. It is a fantastic movie. The action is fantastic. It makes you not hate Mr. Roseanne Barr, which I think this is the only movie where you actually don't really hate that dude. It's sexy.
Tom Arnold, yeah.
Whatever his name is. That guy. Yeah. It's sexy. It's funny. The action, again, the action is also very, 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 very well done. The comedy moments are impeccable. The timing on that, there's that moment of the sexy stripping and then the moment where the gun falls down the stairs. There are fantastic moments to this movie. And it's one of those movies where everyone I knew liked it, which made me initially be like, it's not really something I'm going to be into because, And when you watch it, you go like, this is better than everyone said it was. And it actually feels better than it has any right to. A movie about a dude who's a spy, who lies to his wife, who hangs out with Tom Arnold all day, and then she finds out, and then she becomes a spy. It sounds exhausting, but every single beat of this movie is kind of impeccable and bulletproof. It's incredibly, again, it's funny. You believe the spy stuff. You believe the moments where it's like, oh, he's a spy, but he's also just like, the spy world is weird and kind of bureaucratic. And it gave Arnold Schwarzenegger a great chance to be funny and to be awesome, but also the chemistry between those two characters was fantastic. And when you think of Arnold Schwarzenegger, sexy isn't the word that you use, but in True Lies, Schwarzenegger was sexy. He was real sexy.
All right. Let's take the fight out. I see Mark about ready to spew something.
This was one of the movies I tried to rewatch. And I would say that two of these
True Lies,
two of these three movies are very much aged very beautifully. True Lies, watch it now. That scene with Jamie Lee Curtis is so misogynist and rapey and doesn't hold up in today's day and age. Arnold's very good in it. Tom Arnold is very good in it. But the movie is really, really everything you think badly about James Cameron's treatment of women in one movie, and kind of racist. The terrorists in it are right out of like the worst kind of neo-Nazi sort of like, this is what people of color are like. They're not even trying. They're not even interesting. They're just cardboard characters that felt like they were out of a movie from the 30s. And I remember loving True Lies as a kid when I saw it, and the action sequences still hold up, but the undertone of the relationship between him and Jamie Lee Curtis is so weirdly mentally abusive that I made it through about 45 minutes of the movie, and I was like, this movie makes me really uncomfortable. I think The Last Action Hero isn't really a comedy. I think Last Action Hero is an action comedy. And the problem with Last Action Hero, which I would argue with a lot of movies that are ahead of their time, is that the audience just didn't get it. It was meta before meta even was a term that existed, and I think it's a really ambitious movie, but I think it's comedy with a lowercase c, and it's an action movie first. I just think that of the three, that this is the one that, even if it might be slight source material, is the one that is the most enjoyable, and the one that, given the three choices, the one I'd put on to watch.
I think laughs are laughs, and I think that Last Action Hero is as funny a movie as Kindergarten Cop is. My case with True Lies is, number one, I'll agree with Mark to a point. The Jamie Lee Curtis scene for me too kind of creeps me out now. It's humiliating his wife. It's weird, particularly just in the context of. Just with time, I just don't know how. I don't think that scene ages very well. Even if but it's really him and it's a joke. But it's like, does it seem like a joke?
She doesn't know it's a joke.
She doesn't know it's a joke. It just feels. It does feel like that scene does stick out to me. And also, I've always thought that there are some great things in True Lies. But I've talked about the fourth act. Like, True Lies is way too long. Like, True Lies ends and then goes on for another 30 minutes, and that's always been something like, to me, is just like. To me, it's too long. It takes a simple premise and just extends it way past its viewing point. Kindergarten Cop, I agree, has some funny moments, but I think when people talk about Kindergarten Cop, the movie, they talk about the 30 minutes near the beginning where he's meeting the kids and it's not a tumor and all that part. But there's like the last half of it is like there's a fair and there's the Crispin or something. There's like there's a
Carnival.
really bad criminal subplot that's like the ending is kind of lackluster, and the first half of Kindergarten Cop is better than the second half, whereas I think Last Action Hero, if you look at it as a whole, it is an action movie. It does have a lot of laughs. It is meta. You have Arnold playing Arnold and kind of playing with his own image a lot. But also, I think it's the more complete movie of all three.
And it is a really fun movie, but it is kind of like the TVtropes.com, the movie, where it
but
is
it was
just
before
like
TVtropes.com.
Well, it's because it was before most .coms. And the problem with True Lies, for me, watching that movie, I think the point of it is that he's such a bad husband and it's so misogynistic. So much of that movie is about Jamie Lee Curtis getting agency. And if you watch that movie
that's
from
all
a lens,
her. That's not Cameron or the script.
but it's
that's
still in there. She's the actor in there. A
Yeah.
performance has to count. It might not be the script, but we're not arguing best script. We're arguing best movie, and her performance is definitely part of the movie.
When I watched that movie again, I felt bad for her.
Do you have more to say?
Well, no, and I agree. Like, you do feel bad for her in the beginning. Like, he's awful. He's a terrible husband. The weird thing where he's like, show up and I'm gonna rub a rose on your lips and like pretend like she's gonna bang some dude she doesn't know. That is terrible. But throughout that movie, you do watch her become stronger. She confronts him, and by the end of it, she has complete agency. She decides to stay with him, which, I don't know. I don't know that I would have done that.
Not complete agency.
But, well, that is complete agency because that's a decision that you make. If you're going to be, I'm all about choose your choice, and that character decided that her choice was going to be that, like, being a spy is really fun and exciting, and so I'm going to stay with my dude and we're going to be spies together. That story is the story of her character blossoming from a woman who is mousy and being emotionally abused in a lot of respects to someone who's super badass and suddenly a spy. That's amazing.
And stays with her abuser voluntarily, who continues to, over the course of the movie, do worse and worse things to her. And like I said, I love that movie when I saw it in the theater. That movie is just so hard to watch now. It's like the James Cameron's Gone with the Wind. You're like, wait, whoa, no, what's happening in this movie? And I would argue that I think Last Action Hero has a lot of admirable pieces, but where you say the first half of Kindergarten Cop is good and it falls apart in the second half, I would argue that this is like a Jell-O mold that never sets. There's just so many floating pieces that it's like 12 or 13 different movies, and there's always lots of them are really interesting, but it never feels like a full movie to me. It feels like they filmed a treatment and they didn't know what sort of tone they were going to commit to. I think tonally of the three, I think this one is the slightest of the three. I'll admit that, but what's the most important comedy he ever made? I think this one, if you showed it to three people that had never, if you showed it to people that of all three of these, this is the one that's going to get the most laughs and people are going to like the most and be the most happy with.
Fair enough. Lon.
Jingle All the Way. Jingle All the Way
Jingle
came
All the
up.
Way.
The internet is displeased. Also, a lot of people thought Twins came up, but a Junior came up a few times even.
Really?
A lot of people thought...
My body, my choice.
A lot of people thought Batman and Robin also would have been a good...
You guys know I am pro Batman and Robin all day.
A lot of people thought Batman and
I didn't know if
Robin.
it was an acceptable... Like, this is not technically a comic. He's a comedic figure.
Would you have taken it if you'd known it was allowed?
Maybe. I don't know. I'd have to think about it.
Batman and Robin is one of my favorite movies of all time, and I have talked about this.
I know
his
his performance is amazing.
Yeah, he is being funny in it.
Yeah.
He's one of those people, he knows what movie he's in, and no one else knows. He knows.
But you just open yourself up to a whole thing. Choose comedy.
We got this correct, but Richard Tyson plays Cullen Crisp Sr. in Kindergarten Cop.
The ponytail?
Richard Tyson from the famous Sherilyn Fenn softcore porn movie Two Moon Junction.
Wow, correct.
That was watched a lot in the summers.
And then I would add also just a little trivia factoid: the glass-eyed villain in Last Action Hero. Not a lot of people remember.
Charles Dance.
Tywin Lannister.
Yeah.
Charles Dance played that
Happy
character.
face contact.
Exactly. There you go.
This was a little easier for me at least. It came down to Mark. I think Mark sold it up to me because while you were like, oh, True Lies does go on too long. All these movies have great parts, to be fair, and especially when you watch them in the day, they were fantastic movies. But the half a good movie for Kindergarten Cop was a little bit of a stretch for me. And then when you said, Mark, that that Last Action Hero is a lot of pieces and never a full movie, you just really sort of spoke to me clearly, because I do remember the ferret attacking the guy, and like there is a sort of an exciting scene at the end where he's got to save the kid and Crisp shows up at the school. Like it's memorable.
Kindergarten Cop's famous ferret attack scene.
Whatever, I haven't seen it forever. I challenged myself to remember the second half.
I was shocked how much I laughed during Kindergarten
Yeah,
Cop.
no, it's funny. But then Last Action Hero, I've seen them both about the same time ago, and I do have trouble remembering the full movie. Like, yes, great parts, but when you made that argument of it's a fuller movie, I think that coupled with the fact that True Lies, whatever, does have some issues of does it hold up at the same, is it the best comedy, best action of these three, hands down? But I think Kindergarten Cop wins for best comedy. Mark gets that point. What did they say online?
On YouTube, they agreed with you pretty strongly. 55% went Kindergarten Cop, 27% Last Action Hero, 16% True Lies. A lot of people calling us out. They didn't necessarily think True Lies would count.
It counts. It's funny.
Action movie. But on Twitter...
I need to hear more, though, why the comedy... You didn't give me enough...
Yeah.
You didn't even mention Bill Paxton. Bill Paxton crushes it in that.
Yeah, he does
So
really
good.
well.
He's
but that's
heartbreaking in that
also,
movie.
But he's
so
good.
good. He's so much better than the material.
But I was going to say, Twitter, True Lies actually won. 39% for True Lies, 35% Kindergarten Cop, only 26% for Last Action Hero.
Shocker.
We watched Last Action Hero. I agree, though. Bum rap. And
I agree, too.
That was
terrible
when
release.
you go
of
back.
bum rap.
Yeah, when you go back and you watch that now, Last Action Hero, absolutely.
And that was
Yeah.
Sharon Stone show.
And
there was a lot of
was
Stallone on
yeah.
the. There's
If
a lot
that
of
came
fun
out
stuff.
today with a better
it would do
director,
Yeah.
it would be a huge
Well,
hit.
Dan made that point. It feels very contemporary, Last Action Hero, because movies got a lot more meta in the time since then.
Yes.
And back then, people were like, I don't get it. I thought that he was going shit some
I don't think
people.
McTiernan directed that, right? I don't think he got it. It feels like he was overwhelmed by what was going
Yeah,
on.
and the fact that they went
Schwarzenegger
after
got
Jurassic
it.
Park. Back then, it didn't work that way.
No, I know
Jurassic Park just owned the
Schwarzenegger like begs
Cineplexes.
them to move the date. He was like, please. And they're like, no, it'll cost too much money to move the date. And
Idiots.
And the movie bombed because it just got swallowed.
All right, question 4. This came in from Batman Xenomorph. In honor of Labor Day this weekend coming up, what movie character has the best job? All right. Dan, we're back to you. You're up first. What movie character has the best job?
I went with Dr. Henry Jones Jr., Indiana Jones. Most people say, like, oh, he's an explorer. That's his job. No, that is not technically his profession. He is an archaeologist. More specifically, he is an archaeology professor. And if you track him throughout all of the movies, he works at a college called Marshall College. And this is the cushiest gig ever. He can leave literally at a moment's notice, no advance warning, for as long as he wants, comes back, still has a job.
It's a state school.
The school has a museum that subsidizes his adventures. He can bring back things that the school museum will then buy from him to give him extra money. In Crystal Skull, communists show up. They chase him around the campus. His son drives a motorcycle into the campus library. The FBI raids his office. And the worst thing that happens to him is he gets indefinite leave with pay and then gets his job back. This is the best job in the world. So that's why I chose Indiana Jones.
All right, Danielle.
Speaking of best jobs in the world, which people can just walk away from, I went with God and Bruce Almighty. He is obviously trying to teach this man a very important lesson. He also gets to go on vacation.
So you're picking, Morgan Freeman or
Morgan
Jim Carrey?
Freeman as God. Yeah, no, not Jim Carrey. Because Morgan Freeman, also as God, gets to mess with people.
Yep.
You just get to mess with folks all day because you're like God. And obviously, like it's very much that movie's version of God. But to be able to step away from your work and just be like, you know what, I'm going on vacation. You learn a lesson. You go ahead and be me for however long, and then I'll step back, and reclaim it. That's amazing, especially being able to have the powers of being omniscient, and then coming back in, and because part of it is, yes, he is teaching very valuable lessons because that's kind of God's deal, but also, like, come on, it's really fun to mess with that dude, right? Like, he's having he's having a really, really, really good time messing with Bruce, and I like this kind of teacher trickster version of God, who also apparently gets like 14 vacation days.
All right, Mark, who are you picking?
I picked, as a pet owner, I picked Dr. Dolittle. And no, not the Eddie Murphy one, the original one, the Rex Harrison one. Because what would be more awesome than being able to talk to animals? Animals are cooler than most people. It's a great job. You know, I mean, can you imagine, anybody who's had a pet would love to know what their animal is thinking, would love to have the conversation with someone that loves you unconditionally like that. I think it's a great job. You'd be helping people, you'd be helping animals. I think we would treat animals better. I think it would make the world a better place. I went a little kind of serious with this question because I was like, I love my dog so much. I was like, I want to talk to my dog. I want to know what he's thinking. I think that would be a great power, and I think it would be an awesome power, and I think it would actually help, if that power existed, you could actually help save species. You could say to people, no, pigs actually can think. We shouldn't eat them anymore. And we would have, It would enlighten us all and elevate the society and the world. So that's kind of big, broad, glamorous strokes, but that's how I felt about this question.
All right, fight it out. I know this could get very interesting.
You know who else can talk to dogs? God.
Yeah, but you know what? God is an absentee boss. He gives his job for 2 weeks to Jim fucking Carrey.
There's no way that he wasn't sitting back and also paying attention. He's omniscient.
Exactly, he's on vacation and he still has to pay attention.
Yeah, so that's utterly irresponsible.
Well, I think he doesn't get a choice to pay attention. You're God. You pay attention to everything, right?
Exactly.
I know y'all. I know y'all. I was with y'all at Comic-Con. We were on vacation, but we were also all working. So,
so
Comic-Con's
like being God. Okay.
Wow. Comic-Con is the most grueling experience of the year. It's like wanting to be on vacation, but not getting to be on vacation.
But imagine at any point you could mess with anyone at Comic-Con and just like.
I've been doing that with Hal for years. That's every day. It's still hard work.
I've been writing comics for 25 years. That's my entire career. So oh my God. And with yours, yours is very funny because the direction you went with him being a teacher, and that would be if I was like a all conservative Republican, I'd say that's why teachers unions are bad because he should have been fired. But you also said, remember on the Crystal Skull and having the great pluses of being a professor like that and having to be in Crystal Skull, that negates all the good things about that job.
Yeah, my eyes just kind of glazed over when you did that.
Well, then you missed the best part of the argument, which is that his son wrecked the campus library and he didn't get fired.
Yes, but he still has to be in the movie Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull.
He was locked in a fridge. God never had to be locked in a fridge.
He saw aliens. It's not so bad for Indiana Jones. It's bad for us. It wasn't bad for him. He got to go on a crazy Aztec adventure.
God has seen aliens.
And if you... when he's not in the teacher's lounge making coffee and giving his powers to some crazy person like Jim Carrey, he's a great boss. He's a great leader.
You both picked professions that come with an enormous amount of pressure. God is literally in charge of everything. Everything always.
But he can also just leave.
But he can't because he can't just leave because he's like you said he's omniscient. He can't go sit on a beach because he's still aware of literally everything.
There are no noise canceling headphones when you're God.
And then imagine if you did ignore the pleas of every human voice.
That's why that's the world today.
The animal
the
voice
guilt that comes with that, and then you're right, Dr. Dolittle. I mean, my God, it's just nonstop. Every animal that's hungry,
dogs are so
every animal that's horny or in pain,
dogs
constant
are so
voices in your head.
Dr. Dolittle's not psychic. They have to talk to him. It's not like he's God omniscient hearing all the voices. He's not going to hear about
Professor X.
He's not going to hear about dogs having sex any more than you hear about your neighbors having sex, unless you leave unless you're nearby or the windows are open. So that's not the thing.
I live in an apartment, Mark.
Well, okay. but you have to pay extra for a dog in your apartment. I just think that Indiana Jones, I think if you pitched his job as a professor, I think that's the great job. All that other stuff he has to do, and you say there's no pressure. Indy, the American government wants you to fight Nazis and find the Ark of the Covenant in the midst of the desert. Oh, that sounds like a great job.
Great. I don't need to tell my boss, and I can be gone as long as I need to. Bye.
Indy almost dies like a whole bunch.
Every
That's the
movie.
problem.
Not at work.
Well, that is his other job. He does have two jobs.
It does come with two jobs.
Yeah, he is like every Lyft driver around here. Like, yes, they drive for Lyft, but they also have a secondary job where they write scripts or whatever. Like, people have two jobs. And Indiana Jones has two jobs. You have to count both of them.
He actually can sell the artifacts back to the school he works for. That's like poaching. That's cultural appropriation and stolen artifacts. We just busted was it the Walton family or some other family?
Hobby Lobby.
The Hobby Lobby family for trafficking in stolen artifacts. That's an international crime. So he's a bad teacher, an international criminal, and not really good at his second job. Sounds great.
He's a great teacher. His students love him.
Well, that girl does. And that movie we're never going to see.
Exactly. I'm just saying, he's a great teacher. He seems to have a very popular class. It's always full of students. Well, and again, he can go and do his adventures whenever he wants and come back and have a job.
His class is full of students because he's never there. It's always an audit. It's a free credit.
He has the most lead. The worst case scenario of Indiana Jones's job is someone gets to cover my class and I get to go have an adventure.
And then during that adventure, you see someone's heart.
Your job is the world dies. The worst case scenario of your job is I have to listen to every dog. This is what animals are going to say. It's like four things. I'm hungry, I'm horny, pick me up, or let me go outside.
That sounds like all you're going to hear. That sounds like everybody here.
True story. But yeah, if the world ends, God will just make a new one. God doesn't answer to anyone. It's not like if something bad. It's not like if something bad happens.
That's horrible.
Yeah, it sounds dumb.
Why should we believe in this guy? I don't know. Fuck it up. I'll do a new one. It's like Doritos. Are you kidding me?
The Bruce Almighty version version of God, I don't think he cares if you believe in him or not, because he's on vacation, he gonna go on a beach, and then he's gonna come back, and if everything's
Why does God need to go to a beach?
time.
Why does God need a suntan? That makes no sense.
Well, that God doesn't need a suntan. Let's be real.
God need a starship? I'm sorry, I thought we were Star Trek. No, I just the pressure that comes with being God is not worth the perks. If the only perk is that you get to mess around with people, it's not worth being responsible for the livelihood of billions and billions of souls.
It's irresponsible.
It's very irresponsible. And yeah, Dr. Dolittle, again, like, is it you can talk to the animals? Okay, like, fine, you still have to be a vet. Like, you still have to do the work. It's just that now you can hear what they're saying.
Oh, do you have to talk to the patients? You still have to be a surgeon and save children. Oh, God.
But I'm just saying, like, it's enough satisfaction to save the lives of animals either way. I don't want to hear them say ouch when I give them their rabies shots. It'd be nice to just save an animal and be a vet.
You obviously don't own a pet at the moment, do you?
I am an adopted father to 2 cats.
Oh, okay. Don't you want to know what? Don't you want to know what they
make it abundantly clear what they do every hour.
It would be different if you were a dog owner.
They know. I know exactly where I stand with them.
Man, I think being a dog owner around Dr. Dolittle, like that, Dr. Dolittle around dogs would be the worst because dogs
not going
are
to
like
a dog park.
Yeah, dogs are like the neediest.
That's Comic-Con for animals. No.
Go ahead. Yeah, say
well, no, just I think that, like, as soon as you walk up to any dog or any animal, especially once they know that you can talk to them, I do feel like literally all they're gonna say all day long is like, "Oh my God, help me! Oh my God, help me! Oh my God, help me!"
There's the twist, because you said, "Oh my God, help me!" What are you going to do if you're God? It's not going to be just animals. It's going to be every living creature saying, "Oh my God, help me! Oh my God, help me! Oh my God, help me! Oh my God, help me!"
But this version of God doesn't care. This version of God.
Your version of God's an asshole because he doesn't do his job.
Yeah,
he doesn't do his job.
That's why he's awesome. We said it was the best job, not that he was good at it.
But he's not doing it.
It's a terrible job.
Ignoring your job is not a job.
Oh man, this is tough.
That got more heated.
It got really heated.
Well, you're oh my God, help me, and then who do you think they're talking to?
That's great.
That was pretty great, but that's not the God they're talking to. Wow, I need help on this one, Lon.
Well, the internet has a lot of issues. They're particularly upset. A lot of people feel like both God and Dolittle are those powers or jobs. Like if you had Dr. Dolittle's job,
Indiana Jones in a way has powers too because he gets to go on these missions.
Well, I'm saying, like if you had Dr. Dolittle's job, would you be able to just hear the animals, or is his job just treating the animals? So a lot of debate going on
animal doctor.
Around those. Also, a lot of people tried to choose picks that are unemployed people, like Jay Gatsby or the dude. Like they think they're being all clever. Yeah. Like I'm going to pick a guy with no job. That would be the best job. Others that came up: James Bond, Willy Wonka. A lot of people saying they thought Dan was going to pick Captain Kirk.
Again, the pressure.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's hard to be a starship captain. And then I was shocked. More than one person said Captain Phillips, which is. He's actually kidnapped by pirates during his job.
I'm Captain Phillips now.
Yeah.
Remember when he goes into shock at the end of the movie?
I can't think of a worse job right now than
I think the worst movie job.
Every time I think of that moment with Tom Hanks afterwards on the boat,
where he's breaking down,
literally, I think the best acting he's ever done.
It's amazing.
It's very
natural.
natural.
It's like a 5-minute, whatever that is. That scene is incredible.
And that woman was, my understanding is she's an actual EMT. So she just came in and did the job she would do for someone who was in shock.
Chow was acting like he was gone.
It's easy to write him off. He's so good.
Oh my God, so good. I mean, anyway, I just want that. I think about that.
A great performance, not a good job.
Not a good job. Amazing performance, not a good job.
No,
Lon, I need help on this.
Okay.
Or Will, yeah. What thoughts from the gang there?
Well, I think they did a good job of knocking down God. It just seems like a lot of problems, a lot of headaches.
See, I thought so too, but let me challenge you guys. She did make a point. Who cares if he's an ass? Is that version really responsible? That version,
but his job,
he gets to just sort of leave, and he's always happy and does what he wants.
True, but then so does Indy. You know. Like Dan said, he gets to just, drop his responsibilities. I'm assuming if he has a full class that someone's going to cover it.
Stealing artifacts, but I guess, who cares? If being a jerk, it doesn't count.
That is what I was going to say.
Danielle had the best, though. She's right, though. The dogs would bug you all the damn time saying, feed me, help me, but then they'd bug God, too.
But this version of God doesn't care.
But then he's not doing his job. If he's the creator, his job
it's not about
God doing his job. Yeah, it's about that movie's character. Go ahead, Lon. Final thought.
I actually thought. I thought everybody made an intriguing point. It was sort of hard to figure out, who to side with. But I did feel like we heard a lot better arguments against both God and Dolittle. I didn't really hear a lot of very negative Indy points that survived.
You're right. And all the stuff that was negative was just more he's a jerk or doing things wrong. But your argument of even when he He destroys the library. They give him paid leave. That's a pretty damn good job. All right, Dan gets the point. But very close. That was a good
Tough,
round.
yeah. The internet strongly felt they leaned very much towards Indiana Jones. 74% on YouTube, 22% for God, and 2% right now. I'm going to reload because that's probably not right.
That's probably right. For the Rex Harrison version, that's probably right.
On Twitter, it's 54% Indy, 34% God, 12% Doolittle.
That's because none of them have seen it.
They probably just assumed you meant the Eddie Murphy one.
Yes.
Oh.
All right.
7% for Doolittle on
There
YouTube.
we go. All right, let's do this. Question 5. After It ruins clowns forever, which it's going to do, because a lot of clowns are upset they're not getting their birthday gifts.
That was the news story, is that birthday clown bookings have dropped dramatically.
Of course they would, because even the parents are like, no thanks, I don't want that here. What other occupation should get its own horror movie? Danielle, you're up first.
I am choosing vice principals, because I think that, everyone, the vice principals, assistant managers, anyone who's not at the top of the list, they always have that little bit of like a dark spot. They have a grudge. They're trying to make it. And so while the principal gets to be your pal, the vice principal is usually the one who winds up getting up in that ass. And so I think that they have this sense of authority. They are someone that children trust, which is the same as like a clown or anything else. They've got that trustworthiness, or at least the appearance where you should find them to be trustworthy. But there's something dark inside every vice principal. There's something dark and lonely and way too ambitious. And I think that if you do something that feels like you're going to mess up the vice principal's chances to become a principal or to ascend, they will murder the crap out of you.
All right.
And that's why I'm going with vice principals.
I'm fascinated. Mark.
I'm going with politicians. I think actually making them just devils from hell is just the next logical step, because they control so much of our lives already, and they make decisions they obviously, much like your God, don't care about us. Not the God she believes in, but the God she was arguing for. I'm not talking about faith here. I just think that politicians are the next logical step, because we're living in a scary world right now with politicians, and if they all took off their skin suits and turned out to be demons from hell, I'd be like, oh, duh. Yeah, I think, and vice principals. Well,
I went with, again, I think horror comes in the true everyday things. And so I went with carnival ride operators, sometimes referred to as carnies. I don't know if that's offensive or not. So I'm just going to say carnival ride operators.
Apologies to carnies.
Apologies to carnies if that is a derogatory term. I think that there's like, it's kind of like clowns. It's like 98% of them are just good-natured people looking to get by on their jobs, but every once in a while, I'll see a carnival ride operator and I'll look in his eyes and I'll just see something, man. I don't know what it is, but it's like they're pulling that lever to send me into the dark, and I'm not sure if I'm going to come back out of the other side. And again, it's finding, like Jaws, it's finding the fear in an everyday situation that's going to make you scared of something that you enjoy. And so I think it might be fun to have like a horror movie of like, they run like the Tunnel of Death, but it's the actual Tunnel of Death, one of those old carnival rides. You can get a crazy Walder Frey looking dude to play the guy, and I think it'd be fun. So there you go.
All right, guys, what do you think?
Well, I think that carnies are scary from the very beginning. I don't think there's ever been like a sympathetic romantic portrayal of carnies on film. I think they're always
Adventureland.
Ooh.
It's true.
Are those carnies? Those are
carnies. Those children are carnies.
Isn't that a theme park, though?
Those are the people that I would be afraid of offending by calling them carnies, which is why I went with the less
children are carnivals.
I'll call them carnies. And you said something about, you're usually pals with your principal and not close with your vice principal. What school did you go to?
One where I was, one where I lettered in drama and in choir.
Oh, so we would have been friends, but we wouldn't have known the principal very well. Yeah, I mean, I just don't think vice principals. I think vice principals are the opposite of scary. I think they're powerless people who have hit a ceiling in their ambition and are just kind of sad. I don't think I'm never going to be running in terror from a serial killer vice principal.
See, but that's how they get you, because they have that like congenial, like that veneer of like genial veneer of like, I'm a business person doing business things, and I'm just here to help the kids, just like a clown does. And then you turn around, and then all of a sudden, the next thing you know, stab, your vice principal has stabbed her neck
All my
off.
Vice principals look like they had anemia or radiation poisoning. They didn't look like they had the energy.
But
to
these are
stab
for
us.
children.
Yeah,
anyone
even
can
as
kill
a kid,
child.
even as a
wow,
even
that
a kid,
was dark.
anyone can kill a child.
Wow.
And carnies are also like they're they're creepy, but I'm not really scared of them because they all weigh like 12 pounds and smoke like Pall Malls and have the cigarettes roll. They all look like they probably have stage 4 lung cancer. Politicians can actually do things. They have access to nuclear weapons. They have access to controlling our lives. And if they would actually make the Tunnel of Hell ride, they would turn the world into the Tunnel of Hell, and are very close to doing that.
I was just going for like an everyday kind of terror. Like, I just imagine, you pull the handle and the person that goes into the thing in front of you can just hear screaming, and then it's just this thing that looks in your face and just like, next. I don't know. It's just scary to me.
I have a lever pulling terror too. That's the voting, the ballot box, when you don't get to get these people.
Well, see, I think that like when it comes to carnies, sorry, any carnies out there?
Do we have to be PC with carny for God's sake? Really?
I've been on the internet long enough to know that yes, we probably do.
When it comes to carnival workers, man, I've known we used to have people who would work at our carnivals back when I lived on base. My sister was one of them. They are too lazy to try to figure out how to kill kids. Like maybe somebody who actually like built the rides might build a ride that was like spooky and can kill you. But your average carny is just trying to like find a place where he can go vape, and that's all.
You're right. That is your average carny, except for old Joe.
But we pull his mask off when he's lying to the Scooby kids. He's not actually really a scary monster.
Yeah, he's just trying to get money. He's not trying to kill.
He's just trying to get money, buy a beer, and go visit that whorehouse.
Still scares the shit out of him, though.
Anything against Mark, guys?
I think with politicians, it's like they don't need to like actually murder you. Like bad decisions can murder us all.
That's what's scary. They're so blasé about it. They don't even actually the balls to actually stab people to death. Which
See, I want my killers up close.
I do too.
Personal.
But these guys,
I want them stabbing.
Look at the.
How many times can I do stabbing?
I mean,
look at how many politicians that have been scary in movies. You have Damien in The Final Conflict, who's the American ambassador. He actually is the son of the devil. Doesn't get scarier than that. You have The Dead Zone. You have Martin Sheen playing Greg Stilson, who's absolutely terrifying. What you said that they're not actually directly killing us, that scares me more. A blasé, faceless killer scares me more than if I'm fighting you directly.
See, because I think something like a House of Cards, but that's like crazy like plotting and like behind the scenes stuff. I want my killers to straight up draw some blood, and I think once again you come in for that parent-teacher conference and you're like, you know what, you were being unfair to my kids. I'm going to report you to the school board. Oh my God, my head is gone.
I can't think of anything less appealing than just going into a political horror movie, because I mean,
well, it's scary.
We're there now.
It's immersive. It's VR right now. We're living in this movie.
I mean, maybe not everybody is, but a lot of people
against
are.
Principals?
And against principals, I don't know. It's vice principals. I don't know. Miss Cameron. I always found Miss Cameron to be very nice.
To your face.
Shout out to Miss Cameron.
Until Miss Cameron went home.
Miss Cameron was perfectly lovely. She had a walkie-talkie. She made sure everyone got to class on time. I don't know. I just don't see the threat.
Let me ask you a question. If Miss Cameron gave you a cookie, would you eat it?
Again, she was very nice.
And that is how you would have hella died. Because Miss Cameron could have poisoned all your cookies. Because that is how they get you. Vice principals are not to be trusted.
All right, Lon, I heard enough.
Lots of great suggestions from the internet. Magicians, mailmen, Uber driver came up a lot. A lot of people are freaked out by their Uber drivers. I thought tattoo artist was a really interesting idea. They're, close it. And
a lot of people live in that horror story every day.
And then porn star came up a whole bunch. People want to see the porn star. Also, a lot of fans of a little film, 2003's The Janitor, which introduced us to custodial horror. And then a lot of people said The Dentist too, but that is already a horror franchise
with Corbin Burnson. I looked it up because I was going to say dentist.
Dr. Giggles, that was
right. And then Geometroid suggested tax collectors and even came up with a tagline, "He's not just coming for your money."
Ooh. That sounds like a porn movie.
Could be the porn star tax collector crossover.
Okay. All good thoughts. Yeah, Mark, I think we're already in that movie. I think we all don't want to see more of that movie right now. So it came down to vice principals and carnies for me. Sorry,
Carnival ride operators. Licensed professionals.
I was looking for your rebuttal against vice principals, but when Danielle dropped that they're just too lazy to kill kids, they're just looking for find a place to vape. It was hard to beat that one. And I want to see them draw blood. So I got to give Danielle that point. Good job.
I got a one. And also, to be fair,
not a pity point. You earned that one. That was well done.
Bad Carnies is just the Joker.
Ooh, yeah.
I think Jared Leto was actually as close, I think, as
I don't want to
what
see
I
that.
had in mind with this pitch.
And I didn't want to bring that up because I was like, that's a point for you.
I thought he was more of a juggalo than a carny.
Close.
The line,
killer juggalos?
Yeah.
They already have hatchets?
Yeah, they do. What do the fans say on Twitter?
Very close between the top two on Twitter. 41% went politicians, 38% went carnival operating technical experts, and then 21% said vice principals. Over on YouTube, 41% went for
carnival ride operators,
masters of the carnival arts. 33% for politicians and 25% for vice principals.
Let's do a series called Masters of Carnival Arts.
I'm surprised it's not yet.
That's a degree
All
in
right,
Florida.
Danielle, you did fantastic.
Thank you, guys.
You brought the laughs like crazy. Thank you for doing that. Now
I saw this like last minute. They were like, "Do you want to be on with Mark and Dan?" I was like, "Yeah, I'll lose. That's fine. I'll come in and get my ass kicked."
You came in strong. Now you get to help me decide the winner here, okay?
Yes.
So pay attention to help me with these arguments,
round.
and please keep some notes. I'm going to come to you to get your thoughts because I'll need help. Lon and Will on the couch. Isaac, pay attention. Here we go. Speed round. You know how this works. I'm going to give you 5 more questions, 5 more points. You guys are now tied, so this should be interesting. Any questions before we begin? Good.
Nope, there's no trick question in this round, is there?
I don't know. You have to see. No, there's not.
Wouldn't make sense to speed round.
Yeah, it's too hard in speed round. In honor of the 40th anniversary of Close Encounters, what is the best movie about making contact with aliens?
E.T.
Arrival.
Ooh. All right, Arrival versus E.T. We heard you first, Mark, so whenever you're ready.
E.T. is a classic that has earned its reputation as being a classic. It's a movie about acceptance. It's a movie about finding someone we connect with. It's this little boy who doesn't have a father and a split home, and he finds a connection with a foreign life form. It's about celebrating. It's almost a Roddenberry look at the future and looking at alien races. It's not they're coming to destroy us, they're coming to steal us, they're coming to eat our brains. It's a hopeful movie that takes...
Dan?
E.T.'s great, but it's a very personal story. It's about one boy's encounter with an alien. Arrival, in its own way, was, I think, extraordinarily hopeful because it was hopeful for not just the future of humanity, but the future of intergalactic life. It was the most realistic thing. Like, it's not just a cute alien. It's like, if aliens came down, how would you communicate? It's so fascinating to just watch. How do you develop a language? It made linguistics interesting.
The Arrival is a great movie up until the final act, where it suddenly goes from a Stanley Kubrick movie to trying to be a Steven Spielberg movie. And The Arrival takes tropes that we've seen before in multiple movies: the obelisks, the quiet aliens, the what are they saying.
I think E.T. made the tropes. I think Arrival transcends the tropes, and it actually shows what would it be like to actually meet aliens. It's not a fanciful thing about this boy. You're not watching this kid. You're putting yourselves in that shoes. It's a story about humanity, not just one kid.
Whew. Danielle, thoughts?
Damn.
That was good.
Well, and you both hit on hope, which was amazing. God, and you both kind of hit on that, like, Roddenberry, like that, you know, the idea of, like, how do we communicate, what we do. E.T. is a very personal story with aliens, which is why people love it so much. Arrival is way more about humanity. I'm always gonna go with the personal story. I think that it was a great point that you made, but I think that actually wound up helping him because I feel like when you're dealing with something as abstract as the idea of other life in the universe, you need someone that can be your viewpoint when you're unraveling all of this. So I like the argument.
Give me Mark the point for E.T. Okay, Lon on the couch.
Tough, man. I really like
That was
both.
a tough one.
Yeah,
those are
both
great.
of them had really great rebuttals. Really.
Yeah, even like because it is the contact of aliens. He did sort of give us a good last thought there.
I'm tempted to say just because I thought that the point about sort of its shifting tones towards the end, sort of turning Kubrick at the last second. I feel like maybe I'd give a slight edge to E.T. and Draco.
Do you guys agree?
Yeah.
All right, there you go. Mark gets the first point.
But that thing about linguistics is a great
It was a
argument.
good
It
one.
was. I was probably leaning there towards Dan, but I gotta go.
I think it is the best movie about contact with aliens. But I didn't say that in my argument.
Hey, here we go. Number 2. Still got time here. It's not over. Which franchise is in better shape currently? Which franchise is in better shape? I'm going to list 2, so get ready. Transformers or Pirates?
Pirates.
Transformers.
Pirates will be up first. When you're ready, Mark, go ahead.
Pirates does have a growing, tiresome performance by Johnny Depp, but Pirates always has a visual world that's new and exciting and expands the world. The Transformers movies are more of the same. It's Meatloaf again, movie after movie after movie with less interesting actors and and the same mediocre director. The Pirates movies are entertainment and disposable, but at least they're ambitious on the level that they are. And the production design in all 5 of those movies is spectacular.
Dan?
Johnny Depp was phoning this franchise in 2 movies ago. He's not engaging anymore. He's not fun anymore. They're not even featuring him in the movie. Plus, Pirates ended with a nod to the fact they're going to go back to Davy Jones. They're going to go back to Bill Nye, which is going to be a complete retread, which the last movie already was. Transformers is actually setting up new things. They're setting up Cybertron. Michael Bay says he's leaving. You're going to have a new director. You actually have a chance to have an infusion of fresh talent into this franchise.
The fresh talent with how many times can we see cars transform and fight each other in a city and be unrecognizable? And then we're getting a Bumblebee movie about. It just feels like running on empty. There are at least stories in the Pirates universe that I would be interested in seeing further.
But Pirates is going back to the same stories you've already seen. They made that abundantly clear. This last one was a retread of every plot point from the last 4 movies. Transformers, if only, is keeping the plot moving by bringing in more elements from the cartoons, and there's more to go.
Ooh, Lon, go to you this time first.
I actually thought Dan won that one pretty handily.
Yeah.
Really liked the point, about how it sort of ends with the promise of we're going to bring in a lot of new stuff. I didn't think, Mark had a good answer for that.
We're going to bring in a writer.
Danielle, other thoughts? Do you agree?
I agree. I agree for all of those reasons that it's being the same. It's like they are constantly expanding the Pirates universe, but now with the idea that like we're going to bring in a new director, maybe some new actors. If nothing else, maybe that gives it a shot in the arm that it might need.
Yeah, bravo. All right, you got it. Dan got that point. We're back to even. Yes, I agree.
I agree with that.
No one's going to disagree. All right, number 3. In honor of Vince Vaughn's total makeover for Brawl in the Cell Block 99, what's the best movie featuring Vince Vaughn?
Lost World. It's low-hanging fruit. It's Vince Vaughn, people.
Dodgeball.
Wow.
Oof.
Nice.
All right, we got Lost World. You're first again, since you spoke first, Mark.
Well,
Lost World versus Dodgeball.
You said this is a movie with Vince Vaughn, not a Vince Vaughn movie. Lost World is not a great sequel, but there are moments in it that are classic. The thing over the cliff. There's all the great stuff with the dinosaurs running through San Diego, bringing the Lost World into the real world. There are moments in that movie that are deeply entertaining, and there's not enough Vince Vaughn to ruin it, which he does with all his ham-fisted nonsense and every smug thing he does in every other movie. So he's a supporting character in this.
Yeah, The Lost World, also known as Steven Spielberg presents people looking placidly at dinosaurs. The Lost World took every bit of magic away from Jurassic Park and turned it into a run-of-the-mill sequel. That San Diego thing was terrible. It was the most uninspired piece of anti-Godzilla filmmaking ever. Dodgeball is one of the most underrated comedies of its era. It's not spoken of in the same words as Old School and Wedding Crashes and all those other ones. By the way, Vince Vaughn also in those. Dodgeball.
two good choices, mind us.
Yeah, I think you just put the bullet in your own mouth there by citing 2 other movies that are eminently more watchable and more driven by Vince Vaughn. And the question here was, what is the best movie with Vince Vaughn, not what is the best Vince Vaughn movie. And for me, less is more with Vince Vaughn.
Dodgeball was the cleverest out of those 3. That's what I said. It wasn't spoken with those, but it should be. Lost World is uninspired. It didn't get people excited about that franchise. Dodgeball has hilarious performances from not just Vince Vaughn, but Ben Stiller, from Alan Tudyk.
Whoo! Danielle, we're up to you.
That is tough. Wow, that's really, really tough.
Really? It was easy for me.
I think I gotta go with Dodgeball.
Yeah, that's where I was at too.
Yeah, I think I gotta go Dodgeball.
Those memorable parts Mark listed weren't as memorable for me. Were they memorable for you? Lost World.
No, and I do. While I do appreciate that you almost went with the anti-choice of saying I'm going to pick something where he's super not in it. It was a Vince Vaughn vehicle, and it is probably his best movie, his best comedy.
Yeah, I think
aside
it
from
is.
like Swingers.
I think it's his best movie.
Wedding Crashers is pretty fun.
I've never been as much on the Wedding Crashers.
Yeah, Old School and Wedding Crashers don't do as much for me as, and that might be the like-to-ness of it. To be
Maybe.
fair. I do love me some Tudyk.
Swingers and Maid.
Yeah, Swingers.
And Maid.
And Swingers, yeah.
Swingers is good.
But out of the 2 choices that were picked, I think Dodgeball clearly took it. I hate that San Diego thing in Lost World. As soon as Mark mentioned that, I was like, I'm out.
I did too.
All right, number 4. Here we go. What movie would be improved if you added the Muppets?
Are we getting choices, or
Nope.
we just? Oh,
Oh, wow.
Silence of the Lambs.
Yes. A+.
The Fate of the Furious.
Wow, okay.
I love both these picks.
Okay, whenever you're ready, Mark.
Kermit as Dr. Lecter, Miss Piggy as Clarice Starling, Gonzo as Buffalo Bill. Clarice, what did he say to you?
He said he can smell my cunt.
Gonzo tucking? I'd fuck me so hard.
Enough!
Hey, it's a movie.
Oh, Christ, I apologize. We don't have a time delay.
I didn't know we were allowed to swear.
Well, you really swore there. That's a little too much for some kids that watch. I apologize.
Well, I apologize to little kids watching this. I didn't know that wasn't.
I mean, okay. You just ruined one of the best movies ever made, and a Best Picture winner, one of the best psychological thrillers ever made, one of the best performances. You just wiped the slate clean.
I can't wait for the GIFs for this one.
I just think it'd be ready if Vin Diesel was just like, we're family, and Kermit's like, yes, we are. And it's like, it's not any more ridiculous than what we have. Miss Piggy fighting with Michelle Rodriguez. Again, I might get a little more interested in those movies if you added the Muppets.
The Fast and the Furious movie is already a Muppet movie. Those aren't real actors. Those are suggestions of actors, and I firmly believe that there are people with their hands up them making them speak. This movie would be a really weird, dark comic like Meet the Feebles or some like crazy...
There's no scenario where what you just posited improves The Silence of the Lambs. It's an amazing movie. You ruined it, and you can't make Fast and the Furious any more ridiculous by adding the Muppets. They may have been there, I just didn't notice.
Wow, what a way to end that round. There we go. Danielle, want to chime in?
Holy crap! God, I have to go with Silence of the Lambs. If only for the line of Fate and the Furious, they may already be puppets. they're not actors. They're the impression. Anyway, if only for the.
I would go like Animal as Buffalo Bill, not Gonzo.
Well, that could be. We can figure that out in the room.
See, you're already thinking about mine. That proves my point. Mine's already
What if Pixar Game of Thrones characters were...
Lon, what do you think?
Wow, I mean, it's hard because it's like obviously comic pitch versus actually answering the question, but it is movie fight, so I think you got to go with actually answering the question. So, Fate of the Furious.
I answered the question seriously. I want to see that movie.
The question was, what movie would be improved if you added the Muppets?
I think it would be insane.
It would be insane.
It would be insane. I don't know if it would improve it though. As funny as it was,
bad movies. That's the problem. I
would watch it, but I think Dan's right. It would ruin a classic film. I got to give Dan the final point that puts him over the edge. It's over, Dan. You won. How do you feel? Comeback there.
Good. That was something.
You felt like you were getting a little worried, but you pulled through.
I think that was a movie fight first in a few ways. That argument. Yes.
We said some things I don't think we've said on this show before. Yes.
Thank you for my last appearance on Movie Fights.
Is that our first movie fight C word of all time?
I think it is.
That was a hard.
I sure hope so.
I honestly didn't know that was
the first.
Let's not keep talking about it. All right, apologies there. Mark and Draco, you came and played. Anything you'd like to plug?
No, just
I'll
be looking for work after this one. So
you were quoting a movie.
Yeah, so I was.
You were quoting a movie. All right. No, fantastic job. Love is Love. It's still
seventh
available.
printing. The Brazilian. I'm going to Brazil in December for the Brazil version of it. The German version's coming out in September. I believe the Spanish version's coming out in November. And October 4th, I'm co-writing with Paul Dini, the creator of Harley Quinn. We're doing Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy meet Betty and Veronica.
I'm so excited for that. I've been excited for that for months.
Yeah, and it's as ridiculous as it sounds.
That's great. Congrats, love it. Danielle Radford, thank you so much for coming back. You were hilarious, as always. You're welcome anytime you want. Anything you'd like to plug?
So I've got my podcast, Tights and Fights. It comes out every Thursday where I talk about wrestling. Also on Wednesdays, I do a live streaming show on Wednesday nights on Hyper RPG. It's a Twitch show where it's an in-canon superhero role-playing show. It's in the Valiant universe. My character might be in a comic book, which is real weird because it's just a bunch of comedians and the voice of Lucio from Overwatch, and it's super fun. And that is on Pacific Standard Time, 7 o'clock Wednesdays.
Love it. Killing it. Good work, and thank you for coming. And finally, Dan Murrell, you did it. You're back.
It's fun. It's been a while since anybody was just like, fight.
Yeah, and you're going to have to keep doing this because you got to earn that fight back with Spencer.
Great. I'm ready and willing anytime, anywhere.
Next week's going to be a great fight. We have Mr. Sunday Movies flying in all the way from down under to come fight here. I don't know if we'll be able to see his face. Usually only hear his voice. The goat? I don't know. We'll see, but stay tuned. I'm excited to have him back. I have him here for the first time live in studio. That's going to be crazy.
He's flying up specifically?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think to do some other stuff too, but awesome. We're honored to have him. We're big fans, and that'll be a lot of fun. Lon Harris, bravo over there.
Oh, thank you.
Anything to add?
Follow me on Twitter at LONS.
At Lons.
That's me.
Will and Isaac, thank you guys for coming. Did you have fun?
Oh, we had a great time.
Any final report there for us on the show? How would you sum it up if we were on your network?
Well, it got a little R-rated toward the end of the show. so we might have lost the family viewership.
Yeah, they would have had the 7-second delay, though.
The feed cut out.
That's very, very true. But overall, really entertaining and a lot of fun to watch in person. So,
love it.
yeah,
Well, I'm glad you guys had fun. Thank you for the support and coming. I'm glad we could have you here. And thank you all for watching at home. It's always a blast. Andy Signor on Twitter, and we'll see you next week, Mr. Sunday Movies, and some other fun guests. Have a great one. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks again to T-Mobile for sponsoring today's episode. Check out what makes them America's best unlimited network at T-Mobile.com/coverage.